Hi everyone! In this video, we are going to create a chatbot that answers questions based on our custom data. Let's take a look what we are going to build. As an immigrant in Netherlands, I have decided to build my chatbot based on data about immigration from the official website. So this is the website that I'm using as my custom knowledge base. I scrubbed all the information from this website, from English version of this website, and I made a custom knowledge base from this information. And then I've created a chatbot that uses this data to answer questions. So it's suggesting me to ask any legal questions about immigration. And let's try to ask something. For example, I can ask, what documents do I need for partner visa? And it should understand that I'm talking about Netherlands because this is the only information that it has. Awesome, it answered the question and listed the documents that I need for partner visa in the Netherlands. And it also provided the sources that it used to answer this question. So if I go to these links, I will be directed to the official website and the information it retrieved. So I should set my nationality here to learn more. And same with frequently asked questions and frequently asked questions again. But yeah, I guess this time they're different. Yeah, it's service and contact, and before it was just frequently asked questions. And let's try now to ask a follow-up question. For example, can I get it if my partner has a student visa? And I intentionally set it instead of partner visa because I want to test if it understands that I'm still talking about partner visa. Let's try this question. Yes, it actually understood that I'm still talking about partner visa, and it is saying me that no, it's not possible to obtain this partner visa if a partner has a student visa, and also the document sources that I can read to learn more. So that's what we are going to build today, and I'm going to share the code, also the front-end part, so your chatbot can be as pretty as mine. To make this chatbot, we are going to use Langchain, Pinecone as a vector store database, and OpenAI as the large language model. So let's first discuss Pinecone and vector store databases. What are these? In order for our chatbot to get a custom knowledge, we have to provide it. And we do this by providing a chunk of context information directly with the prompts. So instead of retraining their large language model on custom knowledge base, which is also possible but more difficult and have its own limitations, we are going to use context information. So together with the user prompt, for example, what documents do I need for partner visa, we are also providing context information about this partner visa. So first, when we get this user prompt, we go to our vector store database where our knowledge is contained, and we search for relevant information. So we search for residence permit for partner and any other chunks of information that mention partner visa. We get this information from the vector store, and then we send it together with the user prompt to the large language model. So large language model knows the context, and then it is able to answer the question based on this context. That's how we use vector store in our chatbot. Now let's discuss how to build this vector store. In this video, we are not going into the details because I was already explaining it in the previous video. So if you don't know how to build a vector store, please refer to my previous video where I explained how to do that in detail, and I've also provided a code for you so you can repeat it yourself. But I'll just briefly explain the concept. So we get this website and we scrap it. So we get all the information from this website. And to do this, we're also going to use Langchain. And when we get all this information from the website, then we are going to split it in small chunks of data, so small chunks of text. These chunks of text we are going to store in vector store and then retrieve it when necessary. So when I'm asking the question about partner visa, I'm searching for chunks of text that are similar to my query. You can use different types of data to create vector store. In my case, I was using website, but you can also use PDF documents and many other things. So if we go to Langchain documentation, we can actually see in document loaders, there are a lot of things that you can use to create your vector store. I was using the website information, but as you can see, you can use Microsoft Word document, you can use Google Drive, you can use Microsoft Excel, and many other things. So just find that type of data that you're interested in, and then you get the information how to create a vector store. Or refer to my previous video where I explained step by step how to do that. And let's go back to Pinecone because we need this in the future. Pinecone is the place where I store my vector store. There are many other service providers that you can use to store your vector store, or you can even store it by yourself. In my case, I'm using Pinecone. Now let's finally go to the code. Here's our code, and in this video I'm going to explain what we have here and explain different parts of this project. If you want a step-by-step tutorial, then please let me know by filling the form so I know that there are enough people interested in it, and then I will create a course where I will go step by step by creating different types of vector store and then by creating the chatbot step by step. I was already mentioning this course in the previous video, but we didn't get enough people in order for me to do that. So if you are interested, please let me know. And if there will be enough people, then I will do that, of course. So let's review what we have here. For this project, I'm using new Next.js. And to be honest, I don't know how this new Next.js better than the previous version. In my personal opinion, I prefer the previous version. But just in case they will deprecate the old versions of Next.js, I've decided to use the latest version. In page document, we have our chatbot, the simple form that maps the messages. It has the messages from the AI assistant, and it has the message from the user. This one, the user. Then we have the login state and the input itself and the button send. So nothing complex here. And when we send the message, then we invoke handle click function. Let's see what it does. First, we check if the message exists. Then, if it exists, then we combine it with the message history that we already have. Here we initialize our history, and the first message is already set up. So when we go to our chatbot, this first message is already there. It has the role and content, and that's it. And then we combine it with the new message, which has also role, in this case user, because that's what we have sent, and the message from this form. Then we call API and send query and history to this API call, and then receive the response. Let's go now to API file to see what we have here. So that's what we call when we handle click. In this call, we first receive our question and history from what we have sent here. So here we send query and history, and then we receive it here. Then we don't need console log. Let's comment it. And then we call our chain. So how does it work? I have a separate file, chain, where I initialize it. And here I just call it. Let's go to Langchain documentation to understand what is happening here. I also want to refer to the documentation so you understand better how it works, and you will be able to customize it according to your needs. I'm using conversational retriever question answering chain for that. So what it does, it answers questions. So question answering chain, pretty easy, based on custom knowledge base. Here they have example where they built everything from scratch. So they built a vector store, and then they initialize this vector store, and then they call it in the chain. Our vector store is already in Pinecone, so we don't need this part. And if you don't know how to create a vector store, please refer to the previous video where I explained in detail how to do that. And we just have to create our chain and find our vector store. So we called our API, and we called our chain providing question and chat history. And that is what is happening here. When we create our chain, then we can call it. And we will see how we create our chain in a moment. It's in separate file. So in this API call, we just call it. We already have a chain, and here we just provide in question and chat history. Exactly like they're doing here. Question and chat history. That's it. When we receive the answer, we get the result with the text itself, with the answer, and with the metadata. And one of these metadata is source documents. Let me show you what is in the result. Let's ask our chatbot something else. For example, who can get a highly skilled migrant visa? It answered the question, and let's see what we have here in the terminal. I'll make it bigger. So this is the last question that we sent, last answer. Quite messy, as you can see. Let's go to the top. Here's our answer. Those who want to work, blah, blah, blah. So this is the answer, and it is under text. And then we have source documents. You remember I was explaining you that we are sending relevant chunks of data as the context to the large language model. So in this result, it returns these chunks of data that we were sending. And it returns several documents. So every chunk of data is called document, and it has the content itself. As you can see, my content is quite messy with a lot of ends. That's because I just scraped the data from the website and I didn't clean it. And then it has metadata. And we are interested in this metadata. The metadata is stored in source documents. In metadata, we have links, the the source. In my case, it's links because I was using the website. If you were using PDF, for example, then the source would be something else. So just console log what you have under source documents, console log what you have under metadata, and see what you have here. In my case, I want to extract links from this source document, and that's what I'm doing here. And then I'm returning the answer in the message format. We have the role, in this case assistant, we have the content, which is result.text, and we have the links that we handled here. And we return it back here. When we get the response, then we update our history and we just set loading to false. That's basically it, what we are doing here. Let's now see what we have in the chain. So here we just call it, as I was explaining earlier, and now let's just see what is inside this chain. Our chain is located here under utils. Here we are initializing chain, and again it is all described in Langchain documents. Here they are also initializing it, so they initialize vector store. In their case, they're using another vector store. In my case, I'm using Pinecone. And then they initialize the chain. That's what I'm doing here. First, I'm choosing the model, and I believe here, yes, they also set up the model first. I'm choosing the model, in our case, OpenAI. Then we get the vector store from Pinecone, and all the details again in the Langchain documentation. You can go to Pinecone and see how to get this vector store. We initialize this Pinecone vector store and initialize the chain model and vector store as the retriever, and in our case we want to return source documents. That's why we set it to true. That's what also is written here. They initialize the chain, they use the model, OpenAI, they use vector store as the retriever, and in our case we also return our source document. And let's now see how we initialize Pinecone store, because here again we just call it here, and what I've done here, all right. And then we initialize it here in Pinecone client, also under utils. To get our Pinecone index, we have to provide all the necessary information like Pinecone environment name, Pinecone API key, and also index name. So here in chain, we are also using index name. And that's what you have to provide in environment file. I am providing you with the environment.example file, where you have to fill all your keys from the Pinecone and from OpenAPI. When you fill your keys, you just rename it, you delete called rename, and you delete this part, like example, and also dot. I already have one, that's why it doesn't allow me to do that. And then you have your keys. How to find the keys? We have our Pinecone index, in my case IND. So under Pinecone index name, I will call it IND in my case. And then we have API key here. We have environment name here, and the API key itself here. Environment you put here, API you put here. Same with OpenAI API. You just go to OpenAI itself, and in platform.openai.com you go to your account here and view API keys, and you just create a new API key, give it a name, in my case demo, create secret key, copy it here, and then done. Now I have my demo key. And you put it here. That's all what you have to do here. And then just don't forget to rename it back to environment. And that's it. Now let's recap what we have here. In .env, we are setting our API keys and environment and index name from Pinecone. In Pinecone client, then we initialize our Pinecone. So it is here, we just initialize it. Again, you can just refer to the documentation to see how to initialize Pinecone. And that's it. We are returning Pinecone that we are using then in our chain. In the chain, we create a vector store with this Pinecone index. So we have Pinecone index, we call Pinecone, and we find our index. Then we create our vector store, and we create our conversational retriever, question answering chain with the model from OpenAI with the vector store, and we are asking to return source documents. This chain we are using in our API. So here we call this chain, we provide question and chat history, and then we return the response that we then get here in our page, or as in previous Next.js index.tsx. And that's it. In this file, we have more small functions that I'm just using to make everything look nicer, but nothing functional or related to Langchain or large language models. I will provide the link for GitHub repository in the description to this video. In next video, I'm planning to iterate on vector stores. We are going to create more vector stores in Pinecone using different types of data. In the previous video, I was already explaining how to create a vector store in Pinecone using website data. In the next video, I'm going to explain more how to create different types of vector store with different types of data. So if you want to learn more about vector stores and artificial intelligence in general, then subscribe to this channel. If this video was helpful, don't forget to click the like button. And if you want a step-by-step tutorial, please let me know by filling the form that I will also leave in the description. And if we have enough people, I will create the detailed tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to increase the complexity. I'm going to use streaming. So here we were using just loading and we were waiting for the answer. We will try to use streaming, and we will also use the prompt template that will allow us to influence how our chatbot answers the questions, because currently it's all handled by the Langchain. And with prompt template, we will have much more control on our chatbot. For example, we can set the tone, in which tone we want it to answer. We can set the format. For example, you don't want the text, but for some reason you want JSON that you map later. Or we can limit it to answer only particular types of question. So this is what is going to be in this tutorial. If you are interested, please fill the form. And I see you next time.